Starting with the elderly wolf uncle, chapter 147. On the ground, in the thick black smoke column that continued to drift towards the sky dome, a strong airflow suddenly erupted, exploding all the thick fog that fluttered. Meanwhile, a blurry afterimage flickered in place for a moment before disappearing. In the blink of an eye, it has already appeared on the side of the fighter. It's my turn. Chen Tian's eyes were indifferent, and he reached out to easily grab the tail of the fighter that was whistling in the air. Another force, but easily dragged the entire fighter. Even if the engine in the fighter was roaring madly, it would not help. Next second, Chen Tian directly smashed the fighter in his hand to the ground. Boom! In the violent impact, the entire fighter was on the ground, twisted and deformed, and the pilot in the cab was also squeezed to pieces by the deformed cabin. Then with a boom, the fire bloomed, the parts flew, and the fighter exploded into scrap iron. The other side. A red beam of light burst out from Chen Tian's eyes again, and the last fighter was also bombarded into fireworks in the air. Rumble. In a flash, heaven and earth were filled with endless firelight, and billowing heat waves dispersed in the strong air current. Those countless charred aircraft parts, carrying flames and smoke, fell to the ground like rain. Just a few breaths, the entire Xavier Genius Academy has turned into a scene of purgatory on Earth. When the thick dust and fog cleared, the entire land was devastated, and the already crumbling academy turned into ruins and scorched earth. Inside the basement. Damn it, why is that? Fuck. Nick Fury watched this scene happen through the communicator in his hand, and the fear in his heart was even more agitated. 0 at this time. It's not just the brainwave booster that has stopped working. Even the fighter group prepared by the rear hand could not help Chen Tian at all. Such a situation gave birth to a sense of powerlessness that he could not grasp anything, and a strong aura of death, which was irrepressible towards Nick. Fury's pouring zero made him feel breathless in a short time, that is, even his ears were buzzing because of the excessive pressure. Is this the end of this matter? Chen Tian ruined everything. Nick Fury muttered unwillingly. The body, which should have aged extremely slowly, seemed to be directly 10 years old at this moment. He felt some weakness in his hands and feet. It was true that he was not lightly stimulated by Chen Tian. Then, boom, the xianxia agent who remained at the door of the secret room directly knocked open the circular iron door. Head. We have to get out of here quickly, that guy from Chen Tian will definitely come here soon. That xianxia agent also saw everything that was happening outside, and couldn't help but anxiously say 0, good. Quote. Nick Fury also realized that the situation was not good and could not stay any longer. Nodded, and then took a step towards the door. The xianxia agent glanced at Professor Charles, who was in a wheelchair and was visibly unconscious. Do you want to take him? The xianxia agent asked. Nick Fury's heart was full of hatred for the mutant at this time, and he didn't turn his head. Don't worry about him, let this old guy stay here and die. Finish speaking. He took a big stride and hurried along the secret room on the ground, the passage in the other direction. He knew that this underground chamber had 2 passages. Pedal step one by one. Fury walked hurriedly, and the xianxia agent who remained behind continued to look back at Professor Charles. Sighed Nick Fury, who immediately stepped to keep up. At this time, even in the underground secret room passage, there was a thick smoke, and the smell of scorching could be smelled everywhere. Chen Tian, things won't end like this. Nick Fury hurried down the passage, whispering to himself with anger. Although the means that were considered feasible before have been disintegrated by the other party one after another, his whole person is a little in a trance. But at the end of the day, Nick Fury still has a last resort, not to be completely chaotic. Thinking. He put his hand into a shake, touched the red and blue color BB machine placed inside, and suddenly felt his confidence and improved a little. Rumble. And yet, at this time, the passage buried deep in the ground in front of him was directly penetrated by a figure falling from the sky. The ground shook, endless dust rolled around, and a huge crack broke in the ceiling. Chen Tian's figure was already far away from Nick Fury was only 10 meters away. Nick Fury, long time no see. He spoke in a deep voice, anger filled with every word. In the dim passage, a pair of red eyes flashed. Chen Tian. Nick Furiton felt his body drenched in fear, and his steps stopped uncontrollably. His eyes twinkled and he looked ahead. Half of the face reflected in the faint light there was full of killing intent. There is a delay today, even 2 chapters of 10,000 words compensation. Knife. Chapter 101, The Price of Offending Chen Tian. No one can save you. Inside the underground passage one by one, 2 figures are moving forward at a rapid pace. Nick Fury's face was solemn and his steps were hurried, and his current situation was completely beyond his expectations. The SHIELD, who has experienced many storms, after experiencing a brief panic, touched the BB machine left by Captain Marvel in his pocket, and still recovered some sanity. He thought of the person standing behind him. I am facing Chen Tian now, and I have not completely fallen into an unturnable desperate situation. Nick Fury took a deep breath, adjusted his mood, and began to calculate in his heart whether it was time to use the last resort against Chen Tian later. Of course. At present, the most important thing is to retreat from the pressing Chen Tian's hands step by step, so that there is room to talk more. Rumble. Right at Nick Fury's thoughts kept going. The underground passage, which had just recovered its calm for a while, suddenly trembled again. Next second, I saw a figure, directly running through the ground of more than 10 meters, as well as the ceiling of the passage. From the sky, stood in front of Nick Fury. Chen Tian. Seeing that shadow, his eyes cast a terrifying red light. Nick, Fury immediately recognized the identity of the other party, and felt that the other party's eyes projected a murderous intent-like substance. Rao was a little frightened and took 2 steps back uncontrollably. However, Nick, Fury is not completely out of shape. After all, he is also the world's top super agent. He knows that the more he faces an emergency, he must try to remain as calm as possible in order to have a chance to turn the situation around. Thoughts are like electricity. Syllable. Nick, Fury's hand was already on the gun at his waist. Nick Fury, long time no see. Chen Tian, who was opposite, had an indifferent expression, anger brewing in his eyes, and spoke in a deep voice. I think, this is the last time we meet. Between words. He took 2, 3, 3, 0 steps forward. I can only blame you for taking my previous words as a joke. Chapter